Okay. No, that's not it either. All right, everybody, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the end of the year 2020 meeting for the Lodi Town Board. I will post the agenda in the chat. All right, the agenda's in the chat. At this time, I'll call for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Follow me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Thanks, everyone. All right, Connie, can you give us a roll call, please?
Supervisor Barnhart,
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Latini,
Here.
Councilman Sibley,
Here.
Councilman Batman,
Here.
Councilman Thomas,
Here.
myself as town clerk, and our attorney, Mr. Frank Fisher.
I don't see Frank here tonight,
Okay,
but that's okay. And I do see, thank you, Connie, I do see two members of the public here tonight. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak tonight? Just in case they're muted, I'll give them another second. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to approving the agenda. Does Trevor had mentioned he has something for old business tonight. Is there anything else that any members of the board would like to add to the agenda this evening?
No.
Great. Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Batman. Any further comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda accepted. Would anybody like more time to review the minutes from our meeting earlier this month? I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from our meeting earlier in December. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Thomas. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, minutes accepted. I have emailed the bills to everybody. Does anybody need more time to look at the bills, or does anybody have any questions about the bills or any bills that you'd like to see in particular? Okay, there were a couple of large ones in there. One was materials purchased from Seneca Stone. There's also hydraulic something or another that was kind of expensive, but you know, I looked at the bills, they looked legit. Is there a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Mr. Batman, seconded by Mr. Sibley. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bills paid. Connie, do you have anything for us tonight for a town clerk report?
I just have a tax update. I received them yesterday, worked on escrow this morning. I should have the rest of them in mail by tomorrow afternoon, and we are set to collect taxes in-house at the town hall starting January 1st to run the duration until April 1st, where I'll return it to the county. No further update.
Great. Thank you, Connie. Rick, I don't have a highway report on the agenda since you gave us one a couple of weeks ago. Is there anything that we need to know?
Oh, everything's okay.
Everything's okay. Cool. I don't have a county board report. We are also in the process of wrapping up our year. We do not have any more meetings this year. And for town supervisor remarks, I don't really have anything except to say, it was a tough 2020. Tough to be a rookie supervisor running half the year online, but, we made it. We did all right.
Good job.
Thanks. Apologies if you can hear my crying baby in the background. She has an ear infection and isn't really enjoying it. On to old business. Trevor, you want to lead us off?
Yeah. I'd like to address something that's come to my attention several weeks ago and address it as it relates to the proposed water district. As a town board team, I believe we should be polished, refined, and above board without questioning our ethics or any appearance of conflicts of interest in our actions or reputation, especially as it relates to the representation of our town and our residents that we represent. I'm concerned about a couple issues that have potentially be looked at adversely in that regard. I believe we need to address these issues before they become potential liabilities. Issue number one is Councilman Thomas is employed by and may have an ownership interest now or in the future in the winery that he's employed at. When I drive by that business, it appears to be expanding for events and additional water needs, and neighbors seem to think that they are adding an event banquet facility, and it's located within the proposed water district. According to public officers law, it's my understanding that because of the potential benefit that business and the potential appearance of conflict of interest, he should recuse himself from voting on any issues related with the proposed water district. The second issue, Supervisor Barnhart, you attended the Seneca County Republican Committee annual golf benefit fundraiser in July as a guest of Hunt Engineering Company. As we know, Hunt Engineering has an interest in earning business with the town for the purpose of a multi-million-dollar water project. Guidance from New York State Joint Commission of Public Ethics and also the New York State Association of Towns attorney indicate that this acceptance and participation by the supervisor is not in accordance with their guidelines. To reiterate, I believe that we should be polished, refined, and above board without questioning our ethics in any appearance of conflicts of interest in our actions or reputation, especially it relates to the representation of our town and our residents that we represent. Therefore, I would encourage Councilman Thomas, Supervisor Barnhart would recuse themselves from voting in any matters related to the proposed water district, as well as all the matters related to Hunt Engineering for the proposed water district. That being said, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend and terminate any further actions on the proposed water district for the end of the year.
Thanks, Trevor. Is that it?
That's it.
All right. I guess it's a notion or a matter for discussion. I guess I'll start with myself. Yeah, I've attended the golf tournament 2 years in a row. Paid my own way. I didn't think there was a conflict of interest. If there is a conflict of interest, I think everybody who's there probably has a conflict of interest. I saw plenty of town supervisors riding or playing with engineers. I saw elected officials with, commissioners of boards of elections. So, I get that. Something that Hunt generally does, they have, what do they call them? they basically have customer service reps. Mine is Marty Muggleton. You know, they have somebody assigned to you that works with you and basically make sure that the relationship is going well. So sure, I hear what you say, Trevor, loud and clear. I paid my own way, so I didn't think it was a conflict of interest. I suppose I'll confer with our town attorney and our county attorney to make sure that nothing I'm doing is unethical, because I'm certainly concerned about that. So, you know, I just wanted to play a little golf, but if there's some ethical concerns, I'll certainly get to the bottom of them. In terms of the water project, I can certainly follow up on that too. I would be surprised if simply being inside of a water district would create a situation for recusal. For example, if that was the case, then anybody subject to debt service on a particular project wouldn't be able to vote on it. So if we're building a new town hall and everybody in the town is subject to debt service, how could any board supervisors or board members possibly vote for it? So, you know, same thing would apply with cities. Like, I don't know how a mayor would vote for a water project or support any project if it applies to the entire city. So while I understand the statement, I don't necessarily think it's true. It's one thing to be vested in your community, but it's another thing to sort of be accused of seeking and gaining benefit from a proposed project like that. So I hear you loud and clear. I'll confer with the town attorney and the county attorney to see if there's any conflict of interest. If there is, I'll certainly follow the rules, not only the law, but I'll follow the ethics recommendations.
Sure.
So I hear you.
So I got a motion that I think that we need to stop this. We've heard for months now, what is it going on the last 3 months? The other thing that I walked in on the meeting the last time towards the tail end of that, when they were talking about monies being out there for the water project itself are pretty much dried up. And, you know, this would be a nice thing to, I mean, we as a town board voted that we wanted to see this through, and our people, our residents, have spoken in my mind, and I'd like to put this at rest. That's why I'm making a motion to cease and desist on this.
Sure. So since Mr. Sibley has made a motion, and it sounds like the motion is, I think what you said was to take no further action on the water project this year. But would you like to clarify that?
I think there's some things that we would have to revisit, whether that means we use Hunt Engineering. Maybe there's somebody else out there. I don't know. I just know right now from what the gentleman from Hunt, when he came to that, what was that, 2 board meetings ago, was saying that there isn't any money out there. We have also heard numerous times from our constituents that, you know, that are on that 414 corridor that they do not want it, and can't afford it. So unless there's another avenue that's not going to cost these people nothing when they say they don't want to spend anything, I think we need to can it all together.
Sure. So I want to follow the letter of the law here in terms of you making a motion. And I don't want to interrupt that, but I just want to give some clarification as to where we are. We are not currently anywhere with the water project. The situation that we are in is that we passed the initial sort of framework to get us to the next step, which would be to actually legally form the water district, which we have not done. Any further action taken on any sort of water plans would cost us money with Hunt Engineers. So where we are right now is at a standstill. We've heard from the public for the proposed map plan and report that we have. There was obviously a lot of public opposition. I think where we left it last time we talked about it as a board was that we would look at alternative options, which was what was asked of us in terms of getting the PER in a non-draft form, which we did and which was distributed to the board members. And that outlines the four options for water coming to the town. So as far as I'm concerned, it is effectively dead at the moment because any further action would take further motions that would be moved or acted on by the board. So while I'm happy to entertain your motion doesn't necessarily take any action. Do you know what I'm saying, Trevor? We don't have anything on the table right now. We don't have anything to stop because we are sort of stopped.
Okay.
So the next moves, if we did anything on water, the next moves would either be to pursue district formation on the 414 corridor, which I think my personal opinion is we've got enough opposition there that that's not really a likely solution.
Okay.
Or if the town board would like to continue looking for options to bring water to the town and the village, then we could look at other options to bring water, such as Ovid or our own system or things like that. So
Yeah, I think that would be the better way to go. If that's just my opinion. Granted, there's Luke, yourself, Seth, whatever you whatever we as a town board feels is going to need to be the best fit along with the general public.
yeah, and I think it's important for us, and I agree with you. I'm not here to force water down the 414 corridor if they don't want it. You know, they made it pretty clear. My disappointment was that we don't even have an opportunity to give them a price, to tell them what it would cost. It's just they're adamantly clear that they don't want it.
Which we may very well find out coming from the other way. It could very well be that we don't know until that time frame gets there. I think that's the reason why we all originally wanted to see where it would go, but
So I think realistically, if the board does want to continue pursuing water, I think we would see a bit of a flurry of action between like May and June. You had mentioned that the funding had dried up, which it did for 2020. It is pretty widely anticipated that there will be new funding in 2021. The governor just announced a very small, I think $18 million package of funds that is becoming available. And then as part of the federal funds, they're making a lot of infrastructure funds available. I don't know if you've been tracking that, but the Biden administration intends to pass a significant infrastructure package with federal funding. So I think if we take any action, it wouldn't be for a few months as we see the grant awards begin to be announced. And at that point, I think we could have conversations to say, does this make sense for us? And then just to add to that, you know, living in the village, obviously I'd love to see the village get water. And so for that method, I don't care what direction it comes from. I think a thriving community center is important to me and to most folks in the town. But I'm just a little disappointed if we don't come from 414 or if we don't get water at all. We're just really losing an economic development benefit that'll ultimately cost our taxpayers more as time goes on instead of less. But we're here to represent the people. So if they don't want it, they don't get it.
Right.
Seth,
Yeah,
Trevor also mentioned your name as part of that statement. Would you like to say anything?
Sure. Yeah. I'm only an employee. I'm not an owner, and that new building is a rental property, guest house that has a occupancy of 2 people. It's not a banquet hall by any means.
Okay.
We might, have a party every once in a while on the deck, but that's like a private thing. That's not something that we'll ever make a habit out of. That's just it's a rental property. So I don't know where that came from, but
just the attention of what's taking place on the 414 corridor. These are things that I'm assuming not only myself but other board members have been speaking to the people in the public, after hours, talking with them, hearing what it is that they have to say. This is just the general census. That's why.
Well, that building was started in 2017, so I was elected in 2019. Was not on the plans.
And I'll add about water, Trevor, that I've spoken with Mayor Huff in the village, and Mike's been at the meetings, and he's seen, he has a pretty vested interest in getting water to his village. And the conversations that we've had, which are informal, just two guys shooting it, I told him that the village might just want to go on their own and not include the town. And then if town folk ever want water, then the village can sell it to the town instead of the other way around. It's a little backwards from the resources perspective, but ultimately it'll probably end up being really lucrative for the village. And since they are able to get the 0% financing for their loans, they can probably get this done a lot easier than the town could. Plus, there's overwhelming support from village residents. So, from a town perspective, it's completely stalled. But I do sense that the conversations will come back up as funding becomes available.
So I heard yours, Kyle. So if Kyle and Seth and Luke have any input on any of this at all?
Paul, Luke, anybody care to pitch in?
Yeah, I share the volatility that we all experienced, and I hope obviously some lessons learned in terms of communicating impacts and whatnot. And then also, I also think it's important when we go public or we discuss numbers that we frame them appropriately, because I think in many cases it was a panic, and no one wants to be in a panic. We're sort of in a tough socio environment right now with COVID. That people have enough stress. And when we throw this in there too, I think that was just the logistics of it. It should be a lesson learned for everyone. I think ultimately, I did correspond with the WIA people at the state. They actually have all of their federal funding. They're just not allocating it.
Yeah.
So it's there. It just can't be used. And there are a number of communities that did receive full 60% funding for projects for both sewage, sewer, sanitary, as well as municipal water. The big question to us is, could we get the 60%? Probably. Could we get the extra 40% to take it to 100? That really is what I think the overall target was. In this environment, I think it would be really difficult. So certainly the pitch proposal for that dollar amount is, I really feel is a bit out of reach for our community, unfortunately. I think we'd be better off redirecting to Ovid or Covert, which I think Covert's having their own issues, and to Trevor's point, table it officially, unofficially, whatever it is, until we can have those numbers, those discussions, and then re-engage the public with a plan. I do like the concept of the village, since they would be the primary consumer versus the number of people that we have on the 414 corridor in the township, leading that effort. And if they qualify for the 0%, that gives them a big head start, but it's still a significant spend. So since the bulk of the service would originate in the village, Kyle, I think that the idea of having Mike see where he could end up, maybe there's some repurposing of the hunt work that could be leveraged to give the village a better positioning and understanding what they have to do to bring water in. And then hopefully there's a discussion between the town and the village of, is it even feasible? Yep. And then we put it to bed once and for all.
Luke, you think you would consider like a second to my motion if I said to?
Yes, by all means, yes. I think it gives community members a relief when they say the board agreed officially to curtail discussion until there's more inputs, any financial availability, more input of a different design, or more input from the village. I really think that's a safe thing. as Kyle, you point out, there's no motion, there's no movement on it now. We basically were redirected by our community members. So I think that's a safe motion to approve on behalf of everyone.
So just to refine this a little bit, Trevor, your motion is, can you refine it a little bit for us so everybody's clear?
Well, my motion was to shut down the 414 corridor south into Hector. Obviously, those people have spoken on that behalf, but if you're saying everything is suspended now,
Yeah, I'm just trying, there's nothing to shut down. There's no pending payments, there's no pending action, there's no active conversation. I mean, you
I
could.
guess I think I'd make a motion to look into other things other than
To pursue alternative sources.
Correct. There
Yep.
we go.
Okay, so we have a motion to pursue alternative water sources for a potential municipal water project. We have a first from Mr. Sibley. We have a second from Mr. Latini.
Motion to what? Pursue?
Motion to pursue alternative water sources other than the town of Hector
Okay,
for
thank you.
a potential municipal water project.
And
Thank
I would add to that if it's
Discussion can continue, please.
or agreement that exploration is with the understanding that municipal water is very important for the town of Lodi to have. That economic growth is not going to happen at all without a water system. Even if it's primarily just in the village, that's still enough to be a vital component for the town as a whole. So I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you, Paul. I think most of us agree that along with public water comes economic development. Supervisor Borst from Ovid and Mayor Kelly have both gotten a hold of me about coming from Ovid. The village of Ovid is actually the one that runs the system, but they would have to run transmission from Ovid to Lodi. And the conversations there were about either just running a straight transmission line to the village for a village project and leaving all the towns out of it, or picking up the customers for the towns along that corridor. And what's happening right now is there's actually a pretty large, I believe it's a winemaking facility going in on 414 between Ovid and Lodi. So I think that by moving the direction of the project to come from Ovid, it's probably a smart move at this point. I think we'll pick up a lot of steam. Unfortunately, I think we're going to give Ovid all of the economic development since very little of that path will be in Lodi, but maybe we'll see economic development in the village alongside the town of Ovid's economic development, which is
Well,
fine.
in agreement to like what Paul said too, whether it's the village or the town, I'm assuming when the village decides to gather around, they're probably going to do a flyer door to door, asking the people what they can do, what they can afford, this, that, the other, and get that opinion first. And then, we can see how this could progress later on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the move. So, I'm happy to support your motion as well to pursue alternative routes. In my mind, the Hector route was pretty dead as it was without some miracle of millions of dollars showing up on our doorstep. So I fully support your motion, Trevor. Is there any more discussion?
But I just still think it's what I keep going through in my mind is the fact, well, it's not necessarily a fact, but the idea that water development is critical for the health of the community as a whole. And that's why we started exploring this to begin with. It wasn't because there were certain citizens who really wanted water, and so we got on the bandwagon. It was because we saw it as being a significant resource for the town the town as a whole to have to proceed in a positive direction for the future. The idea of saying something like that in print is to try to keep the idea out there that to get away from the idea that if somebody says, somebody says, I don't have water and I don't want water, I'm happy without it as far as I'm concerned. Well, okay, well, what about the rest of the community? Is there a place in your perspective for considering the values for the community as a whole, as opposed to just your specific individual needs and desires? Because you are a part of the community.
But you're talking 37 to 40 some people along that corridor that it expressed, and I'm sure if you were to put a mailer demon out, Paul, that all those people that are going to be affected, the ones that are going to have to pay that versus myself or you where you live or Seth where he lives, you know, that's a big burden to throw on those our constituents' shoulders.
Well, it's my understanding that we don't even know what kind of burden they're going to have at this point.
Understood. But the 40% difference, you're still talking quite substantial. It's not going to be free. And we all heard those people say what it is that they were willing to pay or they didn't want it at all. You know, unless it's virtually free, I'm sure you're not gonna get them to turn that switch on or open up their spigots to say, hey, I'll take that free water, you know, until you know for sure that it's going to be free. And what we're finding out now that the potential of that happening is not going to happen for the town of Lodi.
Yeah, so I was, you know, having grown up in Hector, I was mimicking Hector's approach, how they had done it, which was to run up the corridor first and then serve the rest of the residents over a number of years. But like Luke said, you know, I think two things happened here. My communication was pretty poor with the residents and the businesses along that corridor since I was the champion of the project. And then at the same time, I felt like the rug was pulled out from under me with all of the grant funding just about immediately disappearing. So I didn't really have anyone behind me. My back was to the wall there. So, you know, I'll take the majority of the blame for that. And like Trevor has said, I think we've heard loud and clear that the residents along that corridor are not in favor of this water project. I think your motion, I think with the knowledge that we have that we're not, as a town board, further pursuing the corridor because of public opinion, and your motion then guides this board to pursue alternative sources, if any, I think that's fine. I think, you know, here's my opinion, because what I said I believe is mostly fact, but my opinion is that the village will pursue a project. If they are successful, then you'll have your test balloon of residents who can or cannot pay for that debt. And I think you'll see the effects at the village level without really affecting us here at the town level, with the exception that townsfolk will receive the benefit from any village economic development. But I think your motion, addresses both moving away from 414 and investigating other options if we choose to do so. But just to add, the one last thing is any action that goes forward is always undertaken by this board. Every time we interact with Hunt, anytime I get any information, I pass it to you guys and we discuss it publicly. So it's not even, you know, motion or not, it's not like we could go any further without significant public discussion.
Okay.
Any further discussion on the motion before we vote for it?
Who took the second? There was
I
a
have a first from Trevor and a second from Mr. Latini.
Thank you, sir.
All right, hearing no further discussion, the motion to seek alternative water sources for any future municipal water project. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed, motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Trevor.
You're welcome.
Any further old business this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. For new business, we have one resolution in front of us tonight. and it is a series of budget modifications. This is standard every year. This just cleans up the books and moves our overages from certain line items to other line items and essentially balances the books. There's one more piece of this that is not included. By state law, we have until January 20th to wrap up any further financial obligations. Our bookkeeper, Nancy, is still working through the FEMA, the new checking account with FEMA, and getting all of that sorted out to the right line items. She's going to bring our auditor, the accountant Lee Walter, down to advise her and guide her on how to get that all set up initially. And so her and Rick, myself, and Lee Walter are all going to sit down within the first 2 weeks of January and settle out the last of the FEMA checking money issues. So you may see another sort of one of these budget mods again in January, but it'll be a little bit different. That all being said, does anybody have any questions about the budget mods? Actually, let me do this a different way. Let me make a motion to introduce this resolution. Lodi Town Board authorizes amendments to 2020 Town of Lodi budget. Is there a second?
I'll second. Luke?
Seconded by Mr. Latini. Any further discussion or questions? The big thing here, I think, is 94.88 and 61 cents out of fund balance. Everything else evens out, but 94.88 is where we fell short this year.
That's pretty good.
It's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad. I think it's like a little less than 1%.
Nice job, team.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
bad. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of this resolution say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Budget mods completed. Is there any more new business tonight? Hearing none, our next board meeting I propose to make January 7th. That is the first Thursday in January. That'll be our organizational meeting. I have it down as our regular and our organizational meeting. We generally meet on the second Tuesday. So I'm wondering what you think, team. Should we do our organizational meeting and our first regular meeting on the 7th? Or should we do the organizational meeting on the 7th and then follow that up with the following Tuesday meeting? I don't think the following Tuesday meeting is necessary, but it does separate the organizational and the regular meetings. Luke, how have you guys done this in the past? Have you just done it as one meeting?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll propose that we do them both as one meeting. Does anybody have an issue with that?
Well, why is it the 7th and not the 14th?
We have to do it in the first 8 days, 10 days?
Oh, that's part of that requirement.
I think so. I mean, from the attorneys I've talked to, they're like, yeah, you can get away with it if you just do it at your regular meeting. But when I was sorting through the town law manual, I think it said first 8 days or first 10 days.
All right, that's fine. I was just curious.
Let me just double check real quick. I got it here. Okay, this just says as soon as possible. New Year's Day, 9 a.m. Sound good?
Yeah.
Oh,
Great. All right, so January 7th, that is a Thursday evening at 7 p.m. here on Zoom. We'll go through the same process. I'll get all the materials together for the organizational meeting and email them all out to you probably, hopefully that Monday, I would think that I can do. I guess that's it. Outside of that, I don't have anything else for you guys. Good meeting, good year. Nice getting to know you guys.
Happy New Year.
You too.
Yeah.
Any further motions from the floor tonight? Someone give us our special order of the day.
No order of the day, Kyle. I did send out those numbers. When we had our meeting today, I thought I'd sent it. My apologies, team. The amortization schedule was not the one. I've been in the background trying to find the one I had in the original email. I just wanted to put some numbers down. We talked for the new town hall, in augmenting the existing structure, the cost of the existing structure, likely need for well, likely need for the leach field move, etc. And I used Kyle's budget worksheet, the V2 from last month, plus the comments. So I wasn't in person, so I couldn't show them. So I just basically, it's tuned a little bit, and there's a number of different ways we can slice and dice it, but it gives you the general idea of the inputs, of the resources, what we have for funds available, the bond option, to keep it within the 25K, which we have left over from the town hall, from the highway barns, and then basically the summary. And so that I just emailed that to you. And I can, like I said, you can move that around as needed. It's just for discussion purposes only. No action required.
Thank you. The building committee will meet again. I think the next meeting is Wednesday, January 20th, which it will be a great day across America. And we will present this and dig into it a little bit. At the building committee meeting, our intention is to review a modified floor plan to fit within our anticipated square footage allowances based on the new building construction costs. So yeah, we'll be discussing all of this on the 20th. And then of course, we'll give a building committee update the following meeting.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Yeah. All right, team. Since nobody made it, I will make the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I will
Second.
second.
Second, Mr. Batman. Somehow beat you to it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried, meeting adjourned. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you, Kyle.
You are welcome.
Bye.
See you guys.
Good night, gentlemen.